In this video, I'm going to be sharing with you how I made my first 1 million naira. And if you are a real estate investor or somebody who is interested in real estate investments in Nigeria, then this video is for you. This video is also for you if you are, say, a young person like myself and you're looking to gain some inspiration or strategy as it relates to how you too can make your first 1 million. Then you need to watch this video to the very end, because I can guarantee you that if you watch this video to the very last minute, you will definitely be inspired, and not just inspired, but left with strategy that can help you either as an investor or someone who's just looking to gain some inspiration. My name is Raymond Dijoma, and I am the lawyer that loves real estate, or the real estate entrepreneur that uses law as a tool in the best interest of my clients. This video is brought to you by Fortreal Rei Ltd, a real estate company right here in the city of Abuja, and we absolutely bring you the very best of real estate here. We are called the cash flow company, and the reason for that is because we don't just sell real estate for selling's sake, right? We ensure that everything you get from us or through us is interest yielding, is an asset that you can count on and be able to use those assets to find your way to attaining sustainable wealth. Right, so you want to stay in touch and reach out to the number shown on your screen, and importantly, do subscribe and like the video, drop a comment. We'd like to hear your thoughts as related to what I'm about to share with you and everything in between. So let's go right in. So how did I make my first 1 million? It's a very beautiful story. And again, like I said, it's about strategy and inspiration. So either ways, you're going to enjoy this. So it happened that Fortreal Limited, the company I just mentioned, who at the time already started selling properties, no, marketing properties, right? And yeah, selling a few lands here and there. And I was approached by my neighbor at the time, who saw that I've been posting properties here and there and all of that, and eventually said, "Okay, Raymond, my uncle, who is like a brother to me, wants to sell a house." In my mind, I'm like, a house? Somebody is, in quotes, managing to sell lands within the range of 1 million, 2 million. And these have not really been coming back to back, and you're talking about selling a house. I just come back from inspection on that very day, and he's like, "Come on, let me go and show you." I just felt like, okay, I don't know exactly why I eventually decided to. Maybe I wanted to enter his helos because I had not entered the helos at the time. Because he's actually a civil engineer with the ministry in the states, right? That was actually back in Benin, right? So, but for whatever reasons, I felt like, okay, let's just go. Let's just go. You know, if you're somebody who's a realtor or somebody who sells properties, you understand that for it is not every property that you are excited to possibly go and check or something. The other times you'd be like, let's just go and waste the time, right? Let me just give it a try, that kind of thing. So eventually we went there. It actually rained on that day, but we got there and saw the house, very massive house. I'm sure it's showing right on the screen. And he showed me the place, six flats, yeah, six flats, or this six or four, four flats, and of 3 bedroom each, right? Massive compound. So I looked at it, I'm like, okay, let's do this. Did the videos, push the content out there, put it on YouTube, right? And eventually, a couple of calls started coming in, and to cut a very long story short, because I'm trying to focus, I'm going to have to focus on the strategy and then certain other points, right? So to cut the long story short, about a month and 2 weeks or thereabout, property was sold, and that was for 22 million naira or so. And then prior to that time, I told the my neighbor now that I was going to be getting 5% as commission. When I was actually talking about the 5%, when I told him that I was looking out for 5%, I actually didn't see 5% coming. So he just felt like, and he said, no problem, right? So money dropped. Actually, it didn't drop at once. It came in first 20 million or so, and then eventually the balance was paid, and then commission came in, right? And when the alert came in, it was about a million plus. And then I had to tell him to take what was on it, and then I took the 1 million. And then also actually had to give a gift of certain service to him as well, also in appreciation. Right. Then yeah, eventually, yeah, that was how the deal came in. But here's the strategy, or here's the strategy part of it. and then the inspirational part of it. So first, looking at this particular property in question, right? The owner at the time, the owner sold the property after he had completed building it for say around 13 years. In other words, he built this property in quotes 13 years ago, right? And tenants moved in 13 years ago and eventually sold it. Now, when he sold it for, as I mentioned, 23 million, 22 million actually. And he sold it 22 million. And in conversations, you realize that the property was built for less than 10 million naira. That was at the time. So this, I'm talking about, is it 2021 or so? 2021. And then eventually property was sold in 2021, right? So 13 years ago, property was built, and 2021 it's sold for 22 million. Now, so first, if we're looking at it in terms of number, the built is for less than 10 million and sold for 22 million. So that's 12 million as number to be happy about. Right now, some persons will just look at that, but some other persons, or I'm going to have to draw your attention to the fact that between the 13 years period that I'm talking about, definitely rent was paid. So that's rent for 4 people, right? So 4 people paying rent times 13 years, there's a likelihood that he most likely would have made almost about that 10 million, or let's even put it as say 5 million. So altogether, he went home with around, let's be on the safe side of say 15 million naira, right? And that's with him after building, doing only management, right? So what's the point I'm trying to drive at here? The point is that real estate is one way to really make money passively. I'm somebody that is practicing this, and as somebody who keeps studying, who continues to study wealthy people and billionaires, I know for a fact, I am 100 on this, that people who are wealthy actually focus a lot on passive income. If you're going to have to build wealth, or you're looking to build wealth, if you decide to only focus on things, making money through things that you are actively involved in, then that is going to be an issue, right? So it's important that as somebody who's looking to build wealth, here's a strategy now. As somebody who's looking to build wealth, you must pay attention to passive income. So for him, or to that man, that was passive income, right? Even though the only thing he did was to, of course, the man in question who brought me was the one managing the property. So he only needed to bring in a manager to manage the property, and across the period of 13 years, he got his rent. And after 13 years, he sold the property and made capital, let's call it capital returns, as it were, of around 12 million naira. So that's real estate for you. Whatever you put in your money as real estate, one thing is guaranteed: appreciation will always happen. If you buy a land today for 1 million, you can be selling it in 2 years for that same price. I'm a witness to that myself, right? So, and there are a lot of people who do this over and over and over, and they make money from it. So if you're looking to build wealth through real estate, then it's important that you focus on passive income, and real estate gives that to you. So I'm going to leave it at that point and go to the very next point. The second point that we need to quickly look at is the fact that if you're an investor, or you are looking to invest in real estate, always make sure that you have clarity of purpose in mind before you make any payment or start any investment, because the clarity that you have will determine whether you're going to, or what you are going to get, right? And then of course you work with the right brokers or realtor that will help you meet your purpose and help you achieve the goal that you're looking to achieve as you're making that investment. But beyond clarity of purpose, the next point I'm going to be deriving from this particular one is that whenever you eventually make the decision, always make sure that your product is sellable. Whatever you choose to invest in, make sure it is sellable. And there are a number of things that actually make your product sellable. Number one is documentation. For this writer that I mentioned that eventually was sold, the documentation was 100%, right? Lawyers came in, did their thing and all of that. Of course, I'm a lawyer myself, but doing this business, I realized that some persons are, very difficult to do business with. That's just the fact, right? But eventually, lawyers came through and everything was absolutely smooth. When I requested for the documents myself, I saw a lot of documents, original copies. had the property from the very root of title of the property of the land itself, and how everything moved from A to B to C. All the original copies were intact. So when I saw them, like, this is absolutely good. There's no lawyer. There's no lawyer that will not give a go ahead for this transaction, right? So when you are buying properties, when you're investing in real estate, ensure that even though you can go ahead with buying, that's why it's important that you don't just buy, you don't just make the investment, right? It's not just about making the payment or having the money. It's important that you have proper guidance so that you invest rightly, and then at the end of the day, what you are investing in when you are ready to sell will actually be sellable. And the third point I'll be sharing here with you is the fact that if you're looking to invest in real estate, you're making the absolute right decision, because real estate is a great hedge to inflation. One thing is sure about the economy or economics generally, it is the fact that there will always be inflation. Sometimes in the beginning of the year, at other times in the middle, and some other occasions in the end or at the end of the year. And in fact, for some countries, all through the year, inflation happens. And by inflation, I simply mean that you could have used $100 or say 1,000 naira to buy a pen in January. By December, the same pen may be going for as high as 5,000 naira or $500. In fact, for some countries or some people, you could even be buying a lesser pen or a lesser pen with a lesser quality for even a higher price, because a lot of things are changed and producers or business people want to maximize profit and all of that. And at that point, they have to be giving you the same pen with a lesser quality at a higher price. In other words, if you don't have what helps you, in fact, if you're somebody who doesn't make a lot of money consistently, you're going to be eating into your savings to meet up or catch up with inflation. But one thing real estate guarantees you is that when you buy it with $1,000 or 1 million naira, what happens is that, or what you are sure is that it will appreciate. And as it appreciates, that is passive income, which is the first point I mentioned earlier, right? As it appreciates, it's catching up with inflation. So if you have the money, please go ahead and get the right property and invest into it. Invest into real estate generally, because you may actually be thinking that the 5 million in your account is actually 5 million. But you will be shocked that inflation is eating it up, and by the time you're withdrawing 5 million, you may be withdrawing 3 million or even 2.5 million, right? So that's the effect of inflation, and real estate can deal with that. So if you're looking to invest, do reach out to the number showing right on your screen. I'll be happy to do so. So I could still share more and more lessons as it relates to strategy, specifically for real estate investors who are looking to invest in real estate, right? But I'll just have to streamline it to these very few points I just raised, right? So I'll just move forward and just put something together for people who are just looking to gain inspiration from this particular conversation. So the very first thing I need to say, if you are just someone out there, young person looking out for inspiration as relates to how you can make your first 1 million, one thing I know for a fact is for the business that I am into, which is real estate, I know for a fact that it can give you 1 million even in 24 hours, right? However, there's process. There has to be process to making that money. There was process to mine, and I know for a fact that principles are standard, right? You have to follow that process. You have to follow through with that process. You don't have to jump the gun. You don't have to jump the process. There's a process to it, and you have to follow through, right? And beyond the process now, or the patience through the process, I need to state that if I didn't go for it, then it wouldn't have come to me. I had to, as much as um, jumping on a 22 million naira property at that point wasn't something I was sure I could handle or I could put up, because at the time I was still, even though I had been growing my audience, right? So even though all of these things were in place, I actually didn't see myself or the company selling a property worth 20 million naira at the time, because I'd not been there, right? So one thing I've learned, or I learned with that story, and even prior to that time, is the fact that if you don't have guts to go for something, it cannot come to you. I had to, it was based on guts. I felt like, okay, let's do this, right? And for whatever it's worth, let's do this. My first 150,000 naira that came to me in bulk, I actually jumped on something that I didn't believe or had never handled before, and I didn't feel I could handle. Right, but eventually I handled it, and 150K came to me straight up. I had never made anything more than 50K per hour to that time. Right, and 150K came to me, and I was really excited, but I realized that I had to take some level of risk or do something I had not done before to be able to get the result I had not gotten before. Right, same thing for this particular one. So you must always learn to go for what you have not done before, because without you going for what you have not done before, then you cannot achieve what you have not achieved before. Right, so that makes a lot of sense, right? So the second point for people who are just looking for inspiration, remember I mentioned that shared 3 points to investors or people who are looking to do real estate, right? So the second point on this part of the conversation is that you have to grow a platform. You have to be visible, because I was found on a particular platform, and that was how the connection was made between the client and the person who's putting out the product, then of course the seller, and that's how money has changed hands, right? So it's one thing to be valuable, it's another to be visible. If you are valuable and you're not visible, then that is a problem. If you are visible and you are not valuable, then that's also another problem, right? So you must pay attention to your value as well as your visibility. And talking about value, it's important that as somebody who is in the business of real estate, so value is critical. You must have principles, you must have standards. One thing I learned very early, I think the Spirit of God or God orchestrated that to happen for me to learn a very important lesson. Eventually, it was not a reality, right? But it happened, and hopefully, I'll share that story one of these days, right? But the point I'm trying to drive with that is have values and have principles. In this business, if you don't have values, if you don't have principles, you will be willing to cross any line, right? So one thing I learned from this particular transaction is that certain things came up that could have led me to cross certain lines, but I didn't, and thank God I didn't, and eventually the deal was closed, because I've now learned from real estate that no matter how little a lie that you tell, I think that somehow, someday to come out. I had clients who say, "Oh, Raymond, the Rati is 10 million. My uncle is buying it, so just make it 10.5 million or 10 point whatever million and put it in documents." Somehow, I believe that someday the real figure will come out, and that person will never do business with you anymore, right? So that's that for that. Have values and have principles. And then if you're a retail out there listening to this, um, or whoever you are out there listening to this, I know for a fact that real estate can give you that. And I mentioned that in the beginning or when I was talking about this point, right? So you may want to maybe enroll for training. Fortreal Rei Ltd can offer you that. Enroll for training and maybe learn a thing or two. And of course, be patient with the process, right? So I think I'll just summarize the point here, and maybe I'll do another video specifically for this purpose. So yeah, that's a summary of how I made my first 1 million. And I believe, I know for a fact that if somebody like me can get to that point and beyond, I know that you too can get to that point and beyond. All you have to do is keep your faith, be the best you can be at every point, do what you need to do. If you're an investor, keep investing. Profit is always on the side of investment. There's always return. Return will always happen. And then, of course, we've shared a lot of strategies as relates to investing, because location is critical. A number of things, there are a number of things you need to look at for when you are investing or putting money anywhere, right? So there are a lot of videos that address that issue right on this channel, and you can look at. And that's why it's important that you subscribe to this channel, because we share a lot of valuable content. So we don't just share the opportunities with you; we also educate you so that you know how to safely and rightly invest in real estate generally in Nigeria or Abuja specifically, right? So yeah, if you're looking to enroll for training, Fortreal Limited can offer you that, and the numbers are still on your screen. And if you're looking to start your real estate investment journey, your first property, your second, your next, and all of that, Fortreal Limited is also available to make that or help you secure the best of it. Ladies and gentlemen, do subscribe to the channel, like the video, drop a comment, and we'll be happy to get a feedback from you. And I think it's okay to say bye bye.